friend, thank you so much for purchasing my Tidings of Christmas in July card class. I had so much fun making these cards. I know I say that all the time, but I really had fun making these cards. There's nothing like making Christmas cards in the middle of July, but I just love the dies and the stamps. The Tidings of Christmas Designer Series paper is beautiful. Everything is just, they all come together so nice. So I'm really pleased with these card designs. So there are 6 cards in this class and one includes a fun fold. And without further ado, let's start stamping. I am very excited about this card class, friends, because I have had a great time making cards using this Tidings and Trimmings bundle. And in this suite, which is the Tidings of Christmas suite, of course, you get the bundle, you get the beautiful evening evergreen chevron weave ribbon. And in the suite is also this beautiful Designer Series paper. Absolutely love, love, love. For those of you who received the kits, along with the card supplies, you've also received a full package of the Holiday Rhinestone Basic Jewels. You'll have a little clear bag that has a yard of the chevron ribbon and also some of our gold metallic ribbon, and then the tiny little die cuts like the little hollies and the little branches are in that package too. And then also you have one of each pattern of this Designer Series paper. So you're going to have some Designer Series paper left over after you do your class. So, and those of you who ordered the bundles added on to your class, your cards were free and you are going to love this bundle. If you don't have this stamp set, try to use what you have at home. As I mentioned some previous emails, if you have a stocking stamp or die or punch, you can definitely use those. So yeah, let's just go ahead and start stamping, shall we? So I'm going to start with card number 1. Okay, so here is card number 1. So those of you that have kits, you're going to be pulling out the kit that has these pieces. So it has the Sahara Sand card base, 4 by 5 1/4 piece of basic white, and then it has a smaller piece of basic white, cherry cobbler, evening evergreen, and then the cherry cobbler that I've already embossed. And this is using the Wintry 3D embossing folders, which are beautiful. You get 2 in a package. So you have the snowflakes and you have the pine boughs. So I used both of these on this month's card class, just so you could see how they both look. It's always nice to see them in real life. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue my snowflake embossed cherry cobbler to my basic white cardstock. Now, if you plan on making more of these at home, or if you purchase the tutorial only, which by the way I so appreciate, you can of course use any kind of scrap cardstock underneath. It's just you need something to of course glue these on with. Now also, those of you who purchased the kits, I purposely did not cut your Designer Series paper because I wanted you to have the option to choose the patterns that you want on your cards. And so the Designer Series paper is the only thing you're going to need to cut for your cards. So that's this pattern. I'm going to go ahead and stick with that. And you want to cut this down to measure 4 by 2 3/4. You know what? I think I might use the tree pattern. So I'm going to cut it at 2 3/4. Do I want to go that direction? No. Let's see. We'll go this way. 4. Yeah, that was right. And 2 3/4. I wanted to make sure my trees were going in the right direction. This way you can see a little variety of the cards, how they look like before you go ahead and do yours. So if you need to trim anything on the sides, you would do that now. I think this is, yep, that's good. So now you want to wrap your ribbon. And I'm not going to use this because I have this set aside for somebody else's card kit that they're going to, it's actually my guy's sisters wanted a kit, so this is for those lovely ladies when they come visit us next month. So this is what you're going to have in your kit. You're going to have your yard of the chevron ribbon, some metallic ribbon, your die cuts with the little hollies and the branches. So you are going to pull out this from your kit, grab that chevron ribbon, then you're going to take your tear and tape and put it right on the center where those two pieces of paper meet. Put it around. Okay, and then just wrap your ribbon, oops, right around the center to hide the seam where those two pieces of paper come together. And then trim off the excess. Okay, and then glue that onto your card base. This is a really easy card to put together. And now I'm going to go ahead and glue my cherry cobbler and my evening evergreen layers together. Now on my original card, I glued this directly to the card, but you can use Stampin' Dimensionals. And that's the beauty of when you get these cards, or when you get tutorials, or even when you see something online, you can use it as a jumping point or a starting point and tweak it. And as you're stamping, you usually come up with different ideas, and that's always fun. For instance, you might want your card to go landscape. You can absolutely do that, right? So I'm going to put that right about there. Okay, now it's time to do some stamping. So I'm pulling in my Evening Evergreen. This is one of our new in colors this year. And I'm gonna grab a stocking. Now, if you notice, you may not have this stamp set, or you may just be getting yours. The two stockings have the solid image and the outline image. I'm using the outline image. So I'm just gonna ink that up. Stamp it down. And I really didn't leave much room for my Noel, so I'm gonna flip this over. Maybe what I'll do is I'll stamp my Noel first this time. I'm gonna stamp the sentiment using Sahara Sand. So there's my Noel. Now we'll stamp that stocking again. And I kind of tilt it this way. There we go. Perfect. And I'm taking the blender pen and I'm just going to pull all that color in. I love using the blender pen for this because you can get the design. You're not losing the design, that's what I'm trying to say, when you're using the blender pen. Now I want to show you what I did here, and to clean this, just go back and forth on your scrap paper. Now I wanted to show you the difference here. Here, I just used the blender pen right on the leaves. Here, I brought it in to cover the entire stocking. So you get an entirely different look. Now, I'm going to use dimensionals for this piece as well. I love that I already have some of my Christmas cards started for this year. Such a good feeling. And I only have one red one left. So I'm just going to put it right here. Just like that, because I want to pull some of that red in. And then I need to add a gold bow. I'm going to put my bow right there. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to do to this card is I'm going to add some of our shimmery crystal effects. I'm just going to put that on the top portion. And I'm squeezing it continuously as I go along because I want to make sure I get an even layer. And then of course you set this aside to dry. And you're going to have a really fun, shiny, shimmery texture to your stocking. Okay, so I am just going to set that aside to dry. Here's the original, and you can see how I made it different by using different pattern designer series paper, using my blender pen to pull in all the color. We have one rhinestone. So you see, you can really have fun with these designs and tweak them and make them your own. So there's card number 1 done. Moving on to card number 2. I love this card with the beautiful gold die. This particular die is the first thing I noticed when I saw this new bundle, and it's what sold me right off the get-go. I absolutely love this die, and I've never seen a die like it. So I was pretty excited about that. So here's what you're going to have in your kits, my friends. Okay? Your dies have been lovingly cut out for you. I tried to get out all the little bits and pieces. They do come out pretty easy, but I may have missed a couple of spots, so you may need to just poke them out here and there. So this card comes together pretty quickly. So what I'm going to do is I am going to first glue this onto my designer series paper. And again, you're going to need to cut your designer series paper. Okay, so now I'm going to glue this onto my Sahara sand layer. And I'm jumping the gun a little bit on this one because I added the gold bit behind the white before I glued it onto Sahara sand. So that's fine. Now I'm going to do my stamping. I'm going to ink this. It's the most wonderful time of the year with cherry cobbler. Then I'm coming in with my evening evergreen, and I'm going to go over the parts it's the most and then time of the. So I'm just going on top. Now, if you don't have a dark green marker or this particular evening evergreen, take your blender pen. Let me just show you. You can remove ink from your stamps using your blender pen as well. So just take it off like so. I need some scrap paper here. And go back and forth and back and forth. And then you can just keep going on top until all that ink is gone. And this is really good when you're working in tiny little areas. When you want to remove the ink and omit something, or if you want to remove the ink so you can use a lighter color on top. So if you didn't have a dark color like this one, you can now go on top with like pear pizzazz or something, but you're not contaminating that marker by pulling that cherry cobbler ink into your marker. Just a little tip. Can never have too many stamping tips, right? And then I'm going to stamp it right down here. And look how beautiful that is where you get the two colors. I love that. Now, for adding the star, all I do is I just add a teeny tiny little bit of glue here and there and everywhere. Just a tiny bit, just to make sure it's not going to come off your card. And then just put that on here. Like so. And let's see, let's finish off the stamping. So we've got the little tiny stars. So I'm going to stamp the outline first, and I'm going to use Sahara sand. I love the combination of these three colors, the Sahara sand, the evening evergreen, and the cherry cobbler. I think it's beautiful. So I'm stamping a couple times without re-inking, just to get a softer look. Now I'm pulling in my soft succulent for these solid stars. And I have to tell you guys, I finished picking the last of my black currants this weekend. So I am making black currant jam as we speak, which is kind of tricky when you're making jam and doing something else at the same time, because you got to pay attention to the jam, just saying. But it's simmering, and the smell in the house right now is phenomenal. And it's such a nice kind of Christmassy smell, which is appropriate, right, for making the cards. So now I'm just going to line this up, and where I didn't re-ink, I'm going to stamp off, and that's how I get the different shades. So I've got the darker and the lighter. There's something really gratifying about these particular little star stamps, lining them up. I don't know why. Maybe it's just me, but it's pretty fun. There. Okay. Now I'm going to take a glue dot, and I'm going to put it right here, right at the tip of the star. And then I'm going to take my metallic thread and grab another glue dot. You want to make sure it's center. Put that dot underneath and just push it down. Cut off any excess and then adhere this to your card base. You could use, of course, your adhesive. You don't have to use glue. I have not stocked up on my stamp and seal. I've got so much glue I had bought a while back, before COVID, before my in-person classes kind of came to a halt. So I've been using that up. Now I don't have any red, right? And I want red, so I do have in my little trickle trunk all my little adhesive bits. I think, yes, look. Do we have any other ones? This is going to be a little bit of a different red. These are available too, the red rhinestones. But it's a little bit smaller, and it's definitely not quite the same color, but it will do in a pinch. There we go. I am so hooked on these holiday rhinestones, you guys. Buying them for this class was the first time I personally used them, and I'm going to be stocking up on them because these are going to be perfect for flowers, just so many different things when you want that glam, but you might not want the, you know, the silver that we normally use with our rhinestones. Now I'm just putting these rhinestones kind of willy-nilly, and I'm using these beautiful light blue ones. To me, they're kind of like a spin-off of the soft succulent, which is part of this designer series paper. So I just think that's so pretty. So now I need to add another bow. Card number 3 is probably my favorite out of all of the cards in this month's class. I just love the color combination. I love to me it has a Swedish Scandinavian look to it, probably because of the white and the red stars. I love this card. All right, so in your packet, this is what you're gonna have. So you're gonna have your basic white card base, your evening evergreen, your white star, your red star, and in your little bags with the ribbon, you're gonna have some greenery cut out of Sahara sand, and you're not gonna have this star because you're not gonna need it for this card, but you will have this piece, and it's already cut for you. So everything is done for you to make it nice and easy for you to put these cards together. Now I'm going to do this card in reverse, and the only reason I'm doing that is just so you can see the variation of this card, and then you can decide what you want to do when you put your card together. Okay, so this strip that I cut earlier, I'm going to cut this down to measure 4. So now this measures 2 by 4. I'm going to glue that on. Just like so. Oops. And just put that onto my card. I'm gonna stick a glue dot underneath the bow just to kind of hold it in place where I want it. And I need a rhinestone. So I'm going to use one of the dark green rhinestones for the center here. All right, so in your kit, there is some die cuts from Sahara Sand. Okay, so these coordinate. And then what I didn't cut was this one, because without the stamp on it, it looks really odd. So I didn't do a die cut for that one. So I did go ahead and stamp that because of course I have the bundle. And then even if you don't have the stamp set, I think that these are good to use as they are, because you can easily see the shapes of those leaves. So I'm going to use the pieces that were included in your kits. Now those of you who do have the stamp set, you could go ahead and still stamp these. Let me get a block here. So I'm going to stamp this with Sahara Sand. And I'm just going to position this right on top, like so. And then it's perfect. Okay, do the same thing with this image. I'm going to put my die cut on top. And there we go. Okay, so now it's just a matter of tucking these around underneath the star and putting them where you want them. So on the original card, I used the dies where you can get your little red dots. And I did not cut those for the kits, again, just because there was something that would probably get lost. They're so tiny. So if you don't have this bundle, you can use your rhinestones. You can use your marker and color in those berries, whatever you want. I am going to use my rhinestones. I'm going to open another pack. I knew I had another pack. I just wasn't sure if I was going to open it, but I know I'm going to use them. Open those. I did get all my jam jarred. I got 4 jars, and they are sealing because they're popping in the kitchen. So that makes me happy. I'm not putting rhinestones on every one. I'm only putting them on some. And then I'm going to take my cherry cobbler and do the rest. So there's that card done. And it's a nice variation from the original. And now you can see how it looks when it's done with the reverse designer series paper and when it's done in landscape. So here's the original, of course, and then one I just made. Beautiful. Moving on to card number 4. I think this card is so sweet. Now in your kits, I did not die cut the bow. And again, just like on the last card, unless you have that stamp, it's an odd looking piece. You really need the stamp to make it look nice. So I'm going to start by doing my embossing. Put my platform down. And what I did on these cards, now of course you guys, your paper's already embossed. Those of you who got the kits, I already did this for you. I just put it in on a slant. I didn't want it straight across. I wanted it to go on a diagonal. So I just put it in that way. And put my plate on and run it through. I have my window open and the hummingbirds are going crazy. I've got a hummingbird feeder right outside the window. I don't know if you guys can hear them chirping away. Look how beautiful this is. And this is beautiful both both ways, like the reverse and the front. Like, I think it's gorgeous both ways. All right, let's get this out of the way. And this gets glued to the card. And then you have your die cuts for the sentiment. I think there's 2 circles. Yes, there are. You may have a bonus circle in your kit, friends. I just got a bonus one of them too. All right, let's do some stamping. So for this one, we're gonna bring in some pear pizzazz, and I'm taking my blender brush, and I'm just gonna go along the top edge of the basic white. And I'm only going down, not even halfway. I'm adding a little bit more along the edge. There we go. Now bringing in my Sahara sand, I'm going to stamp some of those greenery images. Okay, so I'm gonna stamp this one like so. I'm gonna do this one that way. And let's see. I'm gonna do another one. Let's see. Right there. Then I'm gonna clean this stamp and bring in the other leaves. So some of this middle bit's gonna get covered, of course, because I'm gonna stamp my stocking there. So some of this is gonna get covered, of course, because my stocking is gonna go on top. So now I'm bringing this scrap piece, leftover piece. You can use any Designer Series paper pattern you want, but you want it to be a little bit light. And I'm going to use that stocking again. And I'm going to ink my stocking with Evening Evergreen. I'm going to stamp it right there. Okay, and now I'm inking the top portion of my stocking with Memento, and I'm going to cut that so that I have white on the top here. You can definitely use the Evening Evergreen for that bit. You don't have to use black either. That will just be fine. And one thing I forgot to do is I want to add color to these leaves. So I'm going to bring in the solid portion of the leaves, and I'm going to take my Evening Evergreen. I need my scrap paper again. And I'm going to stamp off on the scrap paper because I don't want a full strength ink. I just want it to be light. And stamp on top. Whoops. Do that again. Stamp off. And stamp on. So this gives me the nice soft shade of Evening Evergreen. I think that's a 2-er. This is a 3-er. 3 leaves on this one. I need the 2 leaves next. And if I use the full strength ink, I'd lose the detail of those leaves. And I have to say, I think that these solid portions of the leaves would make a really cool background. Every time I stamp off like that, I think, you know what? I need to make a background using these 2 stamps. Could even use them on a tree. In fact, while I'm thinking, the Beauty of Friendship stamp, I'll have to try this. But if we stamp this, I wonder how those would look stamped on top for the leaves. I don't know. Just a thought. Thinking out loud. Thinking out loud. All right. Let's boogie woogie here. Let's stamp our circle while we've got all our stamps out. Cheers from our home to yours. All right, assembly time. All right, that goes on here. And I'm gonna go ahead and glue this on here. Now I'm going to cut out my stocking. Okay, so here's my stocking die cut. Isn't that cute? I mean, that's cute just as it is too, because you've got the different pattern that's not stamped. I mean, that would be adorable to use it as is. Or you can add the white bit that I cut out with the stocking die. So let's grab my scissors if I can find them, because my desk is getting to that state where you can't see anything on it anymore. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this. Now I'm not sure. I'm really thinking I might just keep that as it is, but I just want to show you. This is what I did on the original, right? I am going to use that just because it breaks up the color. So stick on my glue, stick her on like so. All right, and we are going to put this on. Now I glued my stocking onto the card. You can use dimensionals if you like. So I'm just going to glue this just like that. So some of that greenery is peeking through. It's another reason why I like the glue, is you can play around with that a little bit. And some dimensionals. Okay, so on my original card, I used my stamped bow, which I had die cut. But for those of you who don't have this bundle, you're going to need to do something different. So I'm going to suggest you use the metallic gold that I've included in your kit. And there should be enough. If not, you can use something else you may have in your stash. And I want to pull in some of that red, since we don't have the red bow on here. So I'm going to pull in the red by just adding, whoops, get up there you, by adding that there. So it almost looks like a little tiny ornament. And then lastly, I'm going to take my blender pen and just pull in that green into the leaves. There's my finished card. I'll show you the original. And that's with the red bow, of course. It really adds a pop of color. I really prefer this one over this one, but this is still very, very pretty. You could also take your cherry cobbler and add some more red by going on top of these berries. And I really like that a lot. I really, really like how that pulls the red in. So have fun making that card. Couple different variations. And now I'm going to move on to card number 5. Okay, moving on to card number 5. This is a fun fold card. This is it really is a fun card to make, I must say. Okay, so those of you who have kits, you're going to have your Evening Evergreen. It's not scored. You're going to score that. You're going to have 2 pieces of your Sahara Sand, your Whisper White. You're going to have your Cherry Cobbler Star, a beautiful gold punch, and your white oval punch. The designer series paper is not cut, again, because that is going to be something I wanted you to pick the pattern and choose what you want. So let's go ahead and do our fun fold card. So this measures 11 by 4 1/4, and we're going to do our scoring along the 11-inch side. So I'm just going to open up my arm. We're going to score first at 5 1/2, just like we would ordinarily, which when folded, of course, would give us our standard size card base, right? But we're also going to do another score. This time we're going to slide it over and score at the 8 1/4 mark. This may not be new to some of you, but to others it might be. So with the crease in the middle facing you, you're going to fold this towards the left. So that's your fun fold. Okay, now I've cut my designer series paper to measure 4 by 5 1/4. This is going to go on the inside. Okay, I'm going to use the red pattern. Put that on like that. Now I have 2 more pieces of designer series paper, and these both measure 4 by 2 1/4. And these are for these panels right here. Now you want to cut another piece of designer series paper. You can use a different pattern like I have, and this measures 3 by 3 3/4. I think I'm going to, oh my gosh, this is a hard call. I'm going to use that pattern. It's sometimes hard to choose the pattern, isn't it? Because they're both sides are so pretty. And you're going to glue this onto one of your Sahara sand layers. And now I'm going to put glue just a little bit on what is going to be my left side, because this is going to get glued on just like so. And I'm just centering it all the way around. Okay. Oh, and I forgot to put my ribbon on. So I'm going to take this off. Eek! Forgot my ribbon. I'm going to use the tear and tape for that. So I'm just going to put it right across the center. And I'm going to leave quite a bit on the ends so that it can wrap around the front. Okay, now on my original card, I glued the star down, but I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm also going to give this a really good crease, just to make sure it folds over nice. You only need 1 star dimensional. And dimensionals again for my label. Adds a really pretty pop of gold on here. And that goes on the center. Like so. And I'm going to bring in my Noel. And I'm going to use actually Evening Evergreen on this one. And stamp that on top of my white oval. It's looking so pretty. I love it. Okay, now I'm going to take my clear Wink of Stella, and let me tell you, this clear Wink of Stella, when you add it to the little hollies, and hopefully you saw me add those. I'm not sure if the camera was on because my dad called. Sorry guys, but I literally just used my glue to add on the little holly leaves. And now I'm just adding my clear Wink of Stella, and boy, does it ever pop on top of this Evening Evergreen. And just makes this card so much more festive, and especially when you've got that gold. Oh my gosh, so pretty. I need to squeeze some more of this out. I actually find it easier to put this clear Wink of Stella on the hollies after they're glued onto the card because they're so tiny, but you may want to put this on before you glue them on. The choices are yours. Then you're going to want to pull out your holiday rhinestones, friends, and add some beautiful berries. So there's the front done. So pretty. So let's do the inside. So this is where you're going to put your second piece of Sahara sand, and I'm going to show you a fun little tip to make sure that this is lined up perfectly. Okay, so now that I have my glue on this second Sahara sand piece, I'm going to show you how you can line it up. So there's 2 ways to do this. If you put this on the inside of your card first, then it's really easy because you would close the flap and then you can line up that Sahara sand layer to this on the inside when you close it, right? See, can you see what I'm doing? And then you know that you're lining those pieces up perfectly. But because I put this piece on first, still easy to line up. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold it in my fingers like so. So I know that it's flush on the top and it's flush on both sides, and then just close. Just close that flap and push down. So now that is lined up perfectly. Okay, let's stamp the inside. I'm going to take my star from the stamp set and my Sahara sand. I'm going to ink it up. And what I'm going to do is on my envelope, I'm going to stamp it here. So I've now just decorated my envelope, but I also have this so that it's not full strength. And I'm stamping it right in the center of my basic white. Now I'm pulling in the sentiment, wishing you a joyful Christmas and a happy new year. And I'm gonna pull in my evening evergreen again. And oh, ink. Okay, flip that over and stamp that down. There we go. And I'm gonna grab my star again. Nothing like inky fingers. Ink it up in the Sahara sand. My envelope is now going to have 2 stars on it. I wanted it that way. I mean, really, everything happens for a reason. And stamp this down. There. Now we have that pretty little background. If you want, you can keep stamping. Oops, I just stamped that in green. So I just stamped one on the envelope. And if you want, you can stamp a couple more on here across. So you can get really creative with how you decide to stamp the inside of your card. And that goes on like so. And if you want, you can take your solid star, add a couple to your envelope, and stamp, stamp. There. So now I have the full strength stamping on my envelope and it's all decorated, and then I've got the softer strength on the inside. And it looks super pretty. So there is the finished card. Now let me show you the original. Here is the original. And this is, again, this is one of the reasons why I didn't pre-cut your designer series paper, friends, because look at, you get an entirely different look on your cards depending on the pattern of designer series paper you use. And no matter which designer series paper you use, it's going to look beautiful. And I did all the sentiments in the red on here and in the green on here. And of course, I have my beautiful coordinating envelope too. So don't forget to stamp your envelopes. So those of you who have kits, this is what's going to be in your envelope. You're going to have your cherry cobbler card base, your evening evergreen, a strip of basic white, 2 strips of that beautiful shimmery gold cardstock, and 2 stockings. Because again, I was thinking, if you don't have this stamp set, you can stamp any pattern onto this to make it a stocking. So I'm going to do that for you. Otherwise, if you have the stamp set, you're going to use these. So I'm going to do one with the stamp, and I'll show you a different way to do the other one. If you don't have this stamp set and dies, guys, they're pretty awesome. I'm just saying, they're pretty awesome. Then you're going to take your basic white and glue that on top. And now, if you're mass producing cards, you're making a lot of Christmas cards, this card and a couple others in this card class are great for mass producing because they come together so fast. Okay, and now I'm adding my strip of gold right along the top. And then my other strip of gold. This is such beautiful, beautiful paper. And it also comes in rose gold. I will show you here in a second. So these are the colors here. So you've got the rose gold and then the gold. But they're gorgeous, gorgeous. So this is in the supply list. You can see the item number there if you want to order some. But I will say you will be very happy if you got a package of this. All right, let's do some stamping. All right, I'm gonna grab my evening evergreen and stamp. It's the most wonderful time of the year, right smack dab there. And now I'm gonna take a stocking. So ordinarily you would stamp your stocking and then cut it out, but because I have already put the die cuts in for you, I'm kind of doing it in reverse. So I'm gonna take my cherry cobbler, ink this up, and position my die cut on top and push it down. So if you have this bundle, you might want to save these stockings for something else. Stamp your stocking on your cardstock and then cut it out. Much easier. But as you can tell, this works as well. All right. Now then, I'm going to show you, let's keep this out. I'm going to show you, now I haven't tried this, it's just been in my head, how you can use a different stamp set for your stocking. Now it's obviously going to be different, but let me just see what I've got for my stamps that I want to use. Okay, I'm bringing in some scrap paper. I'm going to move this out of the way. And I'm going to take a Post-it note. It's got a bunch of stuff on it, but that's okay. And I'm going to put the Post-it note right across the top of the stocking. And again, this is an experiment. It's in my head, but I'm pretty sure it's going to work. So I am pulling in my Evergreen Elegance stamp set. So when you see what I'm going to do, you can take a look at your stamp sets and you could probably do this with any design. Okay, so I'm inking it up in my cherry cobbler and I'm going to stamp it on top like so. And I'm going to spin this around because I want it to be all covered like so. And get this little corner too. There. So now my stocking has a pattern. Okay, now I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw my stitch lines and my outline line. So I'm going to do my stitch lines first. So there's my stocking. So that's just a way that you can use those die cuts that I included in your kit if you don't have these, if you don't have the stamp set. Oh, and I do want to add a line around the edge. And I want to use my blender pen again to pull in this color and make this stocking solid. Tilt this, and I'm lining up the corners with the top of that white layer. Okay, so the corner of the stockings are lined up on the top. Okay, bringing in my evening evergreen, I'm going to stamp 2 bows. You do not have these die cuts in your kit because, again, the die cut by itself looks really, really odd. So just use your gold metallic ribbon that's included in your kit, or you can use a different ribbon altogether. But I will say this particular little bow image with the die is the cutest thing ever. So bring in my blender pen again and pull in that color. Okay, back and forth on scrap paper, and I'm going to cut that with the coordinating die. Alright, so I've cut these out with this die and I'm going to stick those on my stockings. I'm going to use my dark green rhinestones for the bows, and then that card is done. So you may be wondering what I do for the inside of my cards. I just take computer paper and I cut it to measure 4 by 5 1/4, and that's what I use 99% of the time inside my cards. If I'm doing a card that's maybe a little extra special, then I'll use my basic white cardstock. And then I just add a little bit of glue, put it on the inside of my card, and then I would stamp my sentiment and decorate it if I want to do further decorating. Now here's the original. Now I put my stockings down a little bit lower, and I took my evergreen, evening evergreen marker and drew little strings. So that's an option too. So you can see the 2 different cards where I stamped my design on that stocking. Turned out pretty cute. So just use your imagination, use the stamps you have at home if you don't have this bundle. And that wraps up the cards. Now the last project I'm going to show you is a little treat holder for hot chocolate. So this is just super simple, easy, but I'm going to tell you what. At Christmas time, when you need some last minute stocking stuffers or gifts or things, this is the way to go. So again, I'm using our 12 by 12 Tidings of Christmas Designer Series paper. So you would choose whichever side you want to use. Take your tear and tape and go down one side. Just one side. And then lift it up. And then what I did is I took a piece of the chevron evergreen ribbon and I literally just stapled it to the top of my hot chocolate. And then you're going to put your hot chocolate down in the middle. You're going to fold this end over, and then you're going to fold this over, lining it up at the top and the bottom, and then just push down. And to seal it, you won't believe how easy this is. I am just using a good old-fashioned stapler. Okay, this is going to be, so then that just slides out. And let's do a little decorating. Let's take that out for now. So I have my star. And then I took the smaller star die and cut it with the basic white cardstock, and I stamped the 2 from the same stamp set and used cherry cobbler. So you're going to want to sign this. So I will just put to Brian from Santa. We'll put a little kiss and a hug. And take a Stampin' Dimensional and just put that on here like so. A little bit of glue, and then that goes on just like that. And then I'm going to pick up one of my green rhinestones, put that in the center. And then I'm going to slide my hot chocolate in. And there's a super fast, super easy little hot cocoa holder. How fun is that? So that is the bonus treat tutorial. I know it's easy peasy, but sometimes we need easy peasy. You can make this a whole lot fancier. You can absolutely decorate this, do all kinds of things, but I know how much I appreciate having these quick little treat holders up my sleeve when I need them. And of course you can make these for birthdays and change the shapes of your die cuts, and you can just really go to town with this. Super fun. Here's another one that I've made using a different pattern. So you can get all kinds of treat holders out of one 6x6 package of Designer Series paper. So let's do a little recap of all the cards in this class. So here's card number 1, and that shimmery crystal effects has dried and you can see the sparkle in it. It's so pretty. So there was the first card. Card number 2. I may have these out of order a little bit, I'm not sure. Card number 3. And during my demonstrations, of course, I altered these a little bit here and there just to give you some different ways and ideas that you can make your cards. Card number 4. Card number 5 was the fun fold. And then card number 6. And then we have our little treat cocoa holder as well. I really appreciate you purchasing this class, my friend. I hope you have a lot of fun making your cards and getting in the Christmas spirit as you make them for the special people in your life. If you have any questions about the cards or instructions, or if you're wanting to order some of the products that I used, feel free to contact me anytime. And I wish you a great day and happy stamping.